if you go up against a guy like Elazer. But getting on into it, spawning over in the bottom left hand side of Jagannatha as our Blues are playing for Team Argo, it is Elazer.
And his opponent in the northeast, spawning as the red Protoss player, he is SKillous.
But yeah, I've definitely seen SKillous do a lot of the Void Ray stuff, like just safe openings, then has different follow-ups, be it like double Stargate, can go into fast disruptors as well. He's good at that stuff, and sometimes it's good to have faith in doing what you do. Elazer here, just checking if there was a probe coming out, and it's like, oh, there isn't a probe, I'll make the hatchery, and yeah, not going for that hatch block. It's something you don't see every day these days.
Yeah, we've had a lot of that, even in that last series that we just got to watch. But when we were talking about, I guess, strategies that were on the table, you know, a little bit of that cat's knowledge rubbed off onto me. I totally understand where he was coming from with 2,000 atmospheres and the Queen Walk build, and why on this map it's perhaps even a little bit stronger than it would be on other maps, and with the speed zones and whatnot, getting through the middle of Jagannatha. So perhaps that's something in there. But I was gonna say, if the hatchery gets blocked and he's forced to take that like front third as his first expansion, it does help push the creep out a little bit earlier for that, right? All right. Anyway, I think that's one of the things that comes into play with that. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll see if SKillous wants to take this to a defensive place, try to work on the Stargate memes, or maybe he'll bring in something a little bit more sharp for an earlier attack.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, Elazer isn't the kind of guy that you want to poke or to have a base closer to you. So maybe he's thought about this long and hard. He's like, oh, I'm okay with that. But anyhow, it's just kind of a style preference, I do suppose. Elazer will be taking us third. Didn't have to bother making lings to deal with this probe, because this probe is in his main base trying to stop him from mining minerals. And he isn't going for the fastest speed possible either, really prioritizing getting out a lot of drones immediately. I really like how Elazer's handled this early game. Even though he didn't have to do a hell of a lot to get here, I feel that his choices have been very decisive, and he doesn't seem thrown off whatsoever.
No, not at all. And in earth-shattering news, the Stargate is on the way in the top of SKillous' base. So we are headed in that direction, as the third is also underway for Elazer. Still has that probe out front. So he's kind of just been saying, yeah, if you're not going to build early lings to push me away, I will sit here and gather information for a long while, as SKillous' adept is going to come over towards that natural. I mean, one adept by itself shouldn't really be able to do too much, especially since there are now some lings. He's got 4 of them. But at the very least, I guess he just kind of keeps tabs on what Elazer is going to be up to. And it's a Void Ray first, so he's not going to go for the early Oracle to harass or the early Phoenix. He wants to have the Void Ray. He can, of course, deal with the Overlord that is outside of his base. There is just one. And that does make me think we'll probably see him take that third base nice and quick to Muslim. And then the pressure goes back onto Elazer. Will he go for a big push relatively early in this game? Or is he gonna keep powering out those drones we were talking about and play for the big eco?
I mean, I'm very curious. I always, as I said before, I'm not going to say a fanboy, so to speak, but I always like seeing Zerg's approaches to matchups, because I feel that with the way that macro works with them, like you can either produce drones or produce battle units or be somewhere very in between. Elazer is the kind of guy that I think can do it all, but he's primarily looking for ways that he can absolutely take advantage of his opponent. So here, just getting a pretty damn early safe Roach Warren. He knows about the Void Ray now. Might have known about it before. It's going to be an Oracle follow-up for SKillous, along with very fast +1 air weapons. I think he's going about this in a very cool way, and I think we'll see this from him more in this series, because he does like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's that second Stargate, +1 air. So not only will he have the Oracle to attempt to gather information, and obviously do a little bit of harass here and there if he gets the chance. We're headed towards the Stargate shenanigans once more. It's not a super uncommon thing in PvZ these days, just like those big queen pushes. This is kind of where it goes. You either get that big queen push that takes it to an early finish, or we go deep into the territory of Void Rays, Fleet Bacon, and potentially down the line carriers, etc. You know, all that good Protoss versus Zerg late game madness that we are so accustomed to in this time and age of competitive StarCraft to Muslim. So Elazer's going to have to make some choices if he's able to get a read on this as to how he'll deal with it, or if he'll bring on pressure, And maybe SKillous we'll see him go out and do some fancy moves with his Void Rays on the map.
Yeah, so far it's kind of everything we thought it would be, right? Like SKillous going for the double Stargate into the fast robo for disruptors. Like very, very defensive play. Oh, that was close there with the Adept getting out of position. Whereas Elazer, he actually hasn't taken any damage whatsoever. And he only made one Spore Crawler so far against all of this. So his probe count, or rather drone count's really good. Almost getting that Oracle, by the way. That would have been really nice. But setting up a fourth, getting the lair on the go as well. All things said and done, I think Elazer's more than happy with this.
Now he's going to boot up his Roach speed, get his Infestation Pit, continue to move that army towards a late game composition. And even though we haven't seen an early push or anything like that, or any necessarily big signs of something like that happening yet, he's still continuing to get the queen count up. He knows that the anti-air for the defensive purposes, at the very least, will be very important. There's a shield battery at that third base with an Adept and an Oracle. So Elazer kind of checks in, doesn't see too much else. This Overseer is not the fastest that we've ever seen. So I was going to say, there's a Void Ray comes over. At some point, he's probably going to realize what's happening, but he doesn't actually get to see until, the Void Rays show up at his third base, of course, or his fourth, excuse me.
I mean, Elazer, he's kind of gearing up for the late game, which is absolutely the right play, because it's really hard to kill your opponent when they've done what SKillous has done. He's done pretty much the most textbook example of playing very defensive. He was making a disruptor, then he cancelled it, and he's like, you know what? I don't need it right now. It's good to have the tech available, but he's also assessed that, okay, I don't need that. Third Stargate, Fleet Beacon on the way as well. I also like that choice by him a lot.
Yeah, and Revelation sees that the Hive is coming too, so you know that both players are committed. It's going to be a long and very, very stressful back and forth, I imagine, between the two of them. Assuming that some, colossal blunder does not take place. Both of them will have plenty of opportunities to do what they want to do, which for SKillous means take the fourth base and move a little Void Ray hit squad out. We don't have Flux Veins yet. The Fleet Beacon is only just finished, so I do expect him to go for that. Overseer gets killed, but you see 6 or 7 Void Rays, so I feel like he has a good idea of what he's going to be playing against in this game as carrier production starts up. I guess, there's +2. And only thing missing now is maybe Void Ray speed. We've seen a couple players not get it, but it does help with zooming around and trying to avoid these queens, as he's going to trade out some hit points for a bunch of transfuses as he tries to find something he can actually kill. Not quite yet. He'll be routed for now. That's a lot of queens, by the way. How many do we have? 17 queens. Title of my next album.
Yeah, just your standard number of queens, honestly. But I do like the fact that both of them handled that situation pretty nicely. Getting rid of transfusions is nice. Being able to pick off queens is nice. Obviously, nothing died from either side. It was the longest fight with nothing actually happening.
The longest fight with no resources lost.
Right. But
beautiful.
Elazer behind it all, he's getting Vipers, getting Infestors. He's getting upgrades as well. And it's not just damage upgrades. Zergs have figured out that Microbial Shroud is actually not bad. But also, it's really damn good with armor. The armor work, or rather, it's the half damage is cut, and then the armor's applied, I believe, is how it works. So it's even better.
Yeah, and we've seen that be very useful a couple of times so far in this DreamHack Masters. Little scouting link guy there. He's just going to fly over it. Okay, cleans it up. And I guess if we're talking about things that he can do with the Void Rays, I know Cass was mentioning before, you can obviously stack all the air units together and try to just fight one queen at a time, since the range is a little bit similar between the Void Rays and the queens. But for now, he's just going to keep moving around, clearing the bases. And if an opportunity opens up for these lings, once they get adrenal glands, we see this constantly. Big base trade type situations, the air armies in the middle of the map. You either recall and lose a little bit, or you try to push and it can turn into a base trade sort of situation. And well, the interceptors come out to clear these lings. And if you didn't know before, now you know. You got carriers to deal with, and +2 is done. So this is what I was talking about, by the way, with the Mana Cyril game. Ben, he's got his +1 armor for the Corruptors starting, but +2 attack is done. So there's got to be a good window to try and do something here with the upgrade advantage before it gets too crazy, right? Or is he not even going to use Corruptors? Is it going to be oops, all queens?
So First of all, you're absolutely right. I think with the +2 and the army that he has, how many carriers do we have? It's 6, 9 voids. He's got some High Templars as well. I think he could maybe start bullying around, or at least, you know, damaging the peripheral bases. But right now, it looks like he's content with just sitting back, which I always feel like it's a bit of a wasted opportunity, considering the upgrade lead, because it's not as if it gets 10 times better for you as the game goes on. Like, no, your opponent only has the opportunity to catch up with you. But when I'm looking at Elazer's setup, he's done a good job of making it so anywhere you go, there's just lots of static defense and lots of Zerg. But that left base would have definitely been something that he could have gone for, maybe a little bit late now.
Yeah, especially as he continues to add the spore crawlers. As nice as the batteries and the cannons are, you can't move them around. So as Elazer starts to continue to grow the number of spores that he has, he can bring them forward with the army and with all these queens. I mean, this is a pretty scary force to look at. Even without any corruptors at all, you know, you're like, could you just mostly deal with this between the queens and the infestors? And if you land those fungals or even get a decent neural somewhere, as you've mentioned, microbial shroud with the carapace upgrades on the queens is going to turn them into like giga chunks. They're going to be so tanky. It's going to take forever. And once the interceptors are gone, those carriers, they're not so strong anymore, are they?
No, I do like the way that Elazer's done it as well, right? Like, he's getting air upgrades, 2 at a time, by the way, so he's got another spire on the map. But he's not committed to just getting corruptors out right here, right now. He got all the units before, like the chunky boys, the queens. He can get them right from the start. And now he's probably working out a way how he can transition into it later on, but just making a lot of spore crawlers, a lot of static defense, and just making sure that the units that he made right from the start of the game are all useful units. He hasn't got a roach on the map or anything like that, so no wasted resources for him.
Yeah, it's a very lethal composition, because if you move out, you get into that really long fight. We know that'll take a while between the transfuses, burning through the interceptors, and you know, obviously maybe SKillous gets a good position where he fights away from some of the spores and he can actually burst down a decent amount of those queens and infestors. But on the tail end of it, there will be those 36 lings looking for a base they can get around. I was looking at that northeast expansion, and I've never seen quite so many spread out cannons and batteries. He's really trying to keep space between the static defense so that if banelings or the lings do come in, I mean, it helps for an easier surround, but just so he can't bust it open in one swift move. SKillous is bringing the army to the southeast, however, he's going to disengage as the Zerg army approaches, and that's about where our expectations are these days. PvZ is a bit of a game of chicken to Muslim. Nobody actually wants to crash into each other until they feel like they can survive it.
So much easier having your opponent attack into you when you can be pre-split and what have you. And I mean, both these armies, there's a lot of AoE involved, let's be real. And when you attack to one clump, basically, unless you've got the sickest pre-spread attack of all time. But yeah, it's difficult, man. It's difficult. Elazer's trying to get some stuff done with these little groups of lings and stuff. Ultras are going to be joining the field as well. That'll make it very nice to run around with small but good amounts of supply to take out peripheral bases.
Yeah, this is also pretty smart stuff too. I really like the that gateway wall that he has on that base that we were just looking at with the lings. He didn't want to leave a single super vulnerable point that could be smashed down easily. You're gonna have to chew through 1,000 hit points if you want to open the door on this, and that of course will give him time for reinforcements and warp-ins, etc. It does make it a little harder to take one of those bases if he doesn't open the door himself, but he'll walk a probe around. Not too bad. Actually, he does blow up one of the gateways, so just throw away everything I just said, Ben. He's taking that top left base.
Yeah, they're both absorbing the map real fast, and maybe SKillous is doing it faster than Elazer, given that Elazer made how many spore crawlers? 57? 16 spine crawlers? Wow, those ultras pop pretty damn quickly.
Void Rays prismatically aligned will do tremendous damage even to the space cows. It is funny to watch Ultralisks die that fast. It's not something that I can say I'm super familiar with. We have the big squad of overseers, so the changeling spam will be all over the map, but also, you know, obfuscating where those vipers are going to be. If you try to go for feedbacks, it's very easy to accidentally feedback the overseer. Boom, boom. That can be something that turns a fight. So Elazer, and like you said, also just eating the map. Both players building up for the ultimate mega late game We have 57 spore crawlers on the field, 16 spines, 29 photon cannons, but only 9 shield batteries. I want those let's get those into double digits to Muslim. Let's pump those numbers up.
It'll happen. And Elazer, he doesn't like that shield battery, Nate, on that right side. He's got everything rallied to it right now. It's going to be funny seeing how these two do collide and when, because like Elazer's going to be overtaking him in upgrades pretty soon. Like he's gone for everything, right? That is so much static defense, man. Holy crap.
And that's why he split it up. I mean, the Banelings still get through a decent bit of it, but they don't actually kill all the unpowered buildings even. So generates a bit of space, makes it harder for the Banelings to get the value that they need. And that is why SKillous pretty much holds this without losing too much. You know, throw a couple more pylons, throw a couple more cannons. But if your Banelings aren't hitting, 3 or 4 buildings at a time, you're not really going to be able to do the same level of damage. So good forward thinking by SKillous. I mean, look at his bank. 6,000 and 5,300. Absolutely ludicrous. He's I don't know. He's got some pretty fat returns on this end. That's like I feel like I'm watching a Karax co-op player. He's the photon cannon guy. There's some good feng shui going on with his static defense layout. What? Sorry, I've never seen somebody ask for it this early before. He's just like, you know what? Just screw it. Draw. He's killing his own queens.
He's like, well, you don't accept the draw, I'll kill myself then.
It's fascinating to me that a player would ask for a draw 16 minutes into a game where neither of them have fought. Neither of them have had a real fight at any point.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Elazer obviously memeing a little bit, but yeah, it's just a funny situation. Like, both of them, they want to attack away from their static. This is one of the joys of ZBCP. That's why it's your favorite matchup, Nate.
Oh, yeah. And now we've got enough units and buildings and creep on the map that the computers that are observing and spectating are all beginning to slowly melt down, trying to keep up with everything that is happening as Elazer's moving his army to the northeast. So perhaps we'll start to see, there you go, a little bit of attrition going on the side of the photon cannons and pylons being worked away at. But again, like you said, both of these players would love to be on the receiving end of the big attack and be able to spread out, use the static defense, use an overcharged battery to keep the carriers alive if they get dived on. But that's not where this is headed. Elazer's like, okay, you're here? Great, cool, grand, wonderful. I'm out. And he's gonna take his merry way back home, it's like.
Yeah, certainly is. And, we're looking at these upgrades now. Oh, that warp prism getting past the one part of the map where it can. And, parasitic bomb's going down. Fungal's going down as well. Elazer's actually handling this fight very nicely. Still chasing him with the fungal. Actually, he did that really well,
That's a pretty decent storm on the Broodlords, too. They're not super high up in terms of hit points, but getting close enough to try and damage them is going to bring the interceptors in range of, he killed a bunch of his queens, but there's still 14 of them here, so don't worry. We're not running out of queens on the side of Elazer. And he's brought about 8 of his spore crawlers, it looks like, over with these bad boys. So not the full commitment out of him. He did not bring all 55 of his spore crawlers over, but he is using, there you go, the microbial shroud covering the queens, just making them a bit harder to deal with for the carriers. But I don't, they both have so much money. Trading a handful of units here and there is really not going to be too much of a problem for either player at this point.
Certainly isn't. And Elazer tried to get a move going, right? But his opponent is also playing tower defense. It's just his towers don't move, so he can't really be aggressive with them, so to speak, unless he starts placing them very aggressively, which he hasn't done. But yeah, it looks like he's just very comfortable sitting back and reestablishing all that static defense.
Yes, and that's where we are right now. He's like, okay, I can have you attack into me if I put my base next to your base. Then it becomes me defending, and I can fight over all of these spore crawlers. And if you're SKillous, the only thing you don't want to do is, fight the entire Zerg army over, about 30 spore crawlers. So you don't want to fight on the Zerg's base. The Zerg doesn't want to fight you over your batteries and cannons, and thus the dance happens. But it's a little bit slower. It's not like there's waves crashing. It's more like the tide. It's like, okay, yeah, in the morning, he's going to like slowly push forward a little bit further. And then as the day goes by, he's just going to come back a little bit further. You know, the tide rises, it goes down. It's a slow, beautiful process, and it takes forever.
You know, I was watching you guys in the Serral Manor game, and I was like, ha! You guys got that one, huh? And now I'm like,
you're stuck with me now.
God damn it, this is what I've got here. But
welcome to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah. Alrighty. What's going on here? We do have SKillous poking ahead, and Elazer's trying to make magic happen. There is that green battery though, which does certainly slow this down quite a chunk. And SKillous is like, you know what? I'm gonna head back home and deal with this. And Tempests actually do a lot of damage to Ultralisk too.
That burst damage does very well against the armor setup, and maybe the hope was that he'd pull the whole army and then he'd be able to fire another volley at that northeast base. But if there's something that definitely helps for SKillous, other than the fact that he's got 12,000 minerals, you know, the tectonic destabilizers on the Tempest do help them break down those spore crawlers. You just need to be sure that you're not going to get grabbed in the process of doing that. So he's going to just start building his shield batteries further forward so he can help mitigate that risk and try to fight over this expansion on the east center portion of the map. Infestor throws a fungal, hits a little bit on the edge, but the feedback's at the Vipers, so no abducts, and is actually able to take out one of the Vipers with the Tempest. So a nice trade. It'll cost him about 0.5% of his bank to replace what he's lost as the Banelings crash into that northeast expansion.
I feel that these Banelings, although that looks really cool, killing 18 probes, I feel that's almost a good thing for SKillous.
Yeah, do you want probes anymore?
At least not 80, which is kind of what he had before all this. And yeah, I think soon, when this game starts getting to like, hey, who has the most gas left? And it's like, well, I did throw away like 40 Banelings earlier for a few probes. And it's like, well, that really bit me in the ass, that did. And I think SKillous has game planned this game in particular. It's just been a little bit more solid than Elazer's.
Yeah, he's been unbelievably patient, and Elazer has some good tools. He's doing a good job with managing, and he hasn't really lost anything super crazy. But at this point, if we're trying to look for where the edge is on either side, you know, I'm starting to lean towards, you know, you got a couple extra 1,000 minerals, a couple extra 1,000 gas. The fact that those are our points of comparison is melting my mind. But again, here we are. Yeah, he's just going to keep adding carriers, which I don't mind. The transition into corruptors, I feel like it had to happen eventually. But that's where things get a little bit tougher, because corruptors are very expensive. Now his bank is only half of his opponent's.
You can see a massive difference between Elazer's army comp and Serral's in the previous game. Like,
yes,
Serral had like 40 odd corruptors or something, whereas Elazer's, I'll call it skimping on that quite a bit. Like, he hasn't been able to land these abducts, because the Vipers have gone forward without the Overseers and stuff grouped on top of them. Like, don't get me wrong, SKillous is actually handling things very well and making it very uncomfortable for Elazer, but Elazer also, I feel, is missing his mark a little bit on how to grab things.
Yeah, and good split for Elazer on that northwest base. I'm not going to say that the money that this base holds is going to decide the game, but you know, with the pace that we're at, the whole map should probably be mined out within maybe another 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes before we reach the conclusion of this one. So I guess it does matter in that sense. And Elazer is going to take that base. He wants to have that money. And you think about like the game theory of StarCraft and like how the different races work against each other. The common threads that always come up is like Zerg is supposed to lose a little bit more, right? But overwhelm you with numbers. So you definitely don't want to end up in a scenario where you've completely cut the map cleanly in half. You'd like to at least, I imagine, mine out one more base than your opponent so you can actually do that. Because again, the head-to-head fight with this full brunt army would be quite tough. Does get to peel a carrier off, so not bad. Now I'm actually wondering, he still just has 6 Stargates. Is there a reason why you wouldn't want to just ramp up production in case you actually did lose a big fight?
I mean, you could, right? You absolutely could. Oh, nice little Oracle steal there. Grabs it with the neural parasites and what have you. I mean, you absolutely could, but again, it's like, okay, if you lose, do you go up to 10? Like, where do you draw the line? And it's all gas going into extra Stargates, whereas if he plays it perfectly, he shouldn't lose anything. Or unless Elazer plays it perfectly with his Vipers, which so far, he's continuously dived in with just the Vipers alone, which makes it so easy to feedback them.
Yes, yes. And he's actually done a really good job of landing those feedbacks. This army is as exposed as it's been all game. He's going to recall, say, okay, yeah, I won't be able to get this one. That's fine. A decent amount of probes are going to die too. So presumably his army will now also continue to grow in size as a few of the static defense. I guess the static defense he's been able to build over the last 8 minutes of this game is going to finally get cleaned up. And that northwest expansion gets cleared up again. So he doesn't have... Actually, does he have a mothership back home? Yes, he actually has it in his main. So he could use a second recall now if he wanted to try and push down the southwest before the rest of the army got there. I'm kind of asking myself why he doesn't. No, he's just going to use the mothership to recall back to the northeast. He doesn't want to trade anymore. He'd rather just try to take this fight right here. But I do expect the Elazer to disengage as SKillous returns.
All things said and done, some nice map movement by both of them, because SKillous, he lost the right base that he was trying to take, the aggressive one on the Elazer side of the map, but did take out the top left that kind of belonged to him in the first place. And then back home on the other side, he's just TPing all over the shop. Oh, nice little Tempest snipe here. Gets a couple of units. He's using the Tempest really well and super annoying.
Yeah. An absolute slugfest with the trades on this. Tempest try to poke off the spores, but, you know, he's... do I even have that I don't think I have that funky graph on my overlay to look at the individual buildings and whatnot that have been lost, but he's still maintaining a solid count. Still at 56 spore crawlers, so, you know, he's got plenty of static defense to continue to shore up the front walls, and that does not cut as much into the supply or the resources, so I can see why he wants to make as much use of that as possible. Same thing, of course, with the shield batteries and the cannons, but yeah, I mean, he's just so locked down. The mothership is repositioned to the northwest, so maybe there's another recall play that's going to be in the works here. I'm not sure. There's a couple. Okay, the infestors are able to get some neuroparasites on the Tempest. I think he's trying to focus down a carrier, but the shield batteries they're doing their thing. Carrier got to like 1 health, barely managed to survive. I think maybe just died there as the abilities finally do expire. Ooh. The interceptors are trying to come out of fat fungal lands on all of them though. Parasitic bomb in the middle of all of the carriers down to just 10 FPS. As the rest of this army is going to try to engage. The corruptors were shooting at interceptors for a brief moment. The lings start to spill in, and SKillous warps in 10 stalkers to try and reinforce against the rest of these corruptors. But he continues to push forward as that air army gets obliterated.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, the interceptor count's really broken here. The parasitic bombs killed absolutely all of them. They're all stacked up. There's neural parasites going down again. I mean, this is pure chaos in a nutshell. Elazer's remaxing on a lot of corruptors here, which I think is absolutely the right call. And SKillous, he's just trying to get out anything he can, be it Void Rays, Stalkers, but the corrupt count's completely gone here, Nate.
This fight is still going, and it is one of the ugliest, most brutal battles I think I've ever seen in a StarCraft 2 match to Muslim. Continuing to push forward, 6 Void Rays at a time being made to reinforce this, as that Corruptor count is so high. But the Mothership is actually somewhat doing its thing. It's tanking the damage, drawing the attention. The Corruptors are still coming up, though. There's still a bunch of Queens on the back side of this, aiding from behind. 3 of the Carriers are still standing, 3 of the Tempests. And is that it? Are they both just going to rally units into each other here, and this fight will never end until they run out of money? Because they both still have a lot of money to keep funneling units across the map with.
This is a tip-top level direct strike at this point, I swear. Just armies going at it. 120 supply versus 146. They've both got more than enough money to spend as well, but I'm not sure
when you play direct strike with the extra static defense modifiers, so nobody can actually kill anybody.
Yeah, but you're actually allowed to micro a little bit kind of thing. And
your teammates have left, so your waves spawn every 10 seconds, and the game just can't end. Good times.
Beautiful
Good times,
stuff.
Benjamin Baker. I'm having fun.
I'm glad you are, Nate. I'm not sure. These guys are probably like, what the frick is going on here? But I think Elazer's getting the better end of this now and just pick off quite a few units. And back at home, his units are, in fact, they're both at 3-3. Like, the only difference here for these units
Elazer's broke, though. He's out of money.
Yeah, he's super broke, but can he do anything with what he has now? I mean, he is mining, and he can make more drones, which he's doing.
Yeah, he has 41 drones. Most of them are a bit oversaturated on the bottom right corner. There's 4 almost done patches.
Nate, look at the actual income tab of these guys. Like SKillous, he's getting 100 minerals per minute. Like, he's actually not mining anymore.
Yeah, he needs that northwest base. He's burned through the bank, too. Worth pointing out, I guess. He's got 1,000 minerals, 3,000 gas. I don't know. I like the High Templar. I like the High Templar being brought in here. Is he just gonna try and smash him with Void Ray Archon? I like it. I don't actually hate the idea of that. He's got plenty of AoE, plenty of firepower to cover for the air units if the Corruptors get close. The rest of the army, I mean, there's only one Infestor, so I think Neural is mostly off the table. Archons can kind of handle the Ultras if they were to come over in this numbers. So SKillous' army's still looking pretty damn terrifying.
It certainly is. It certainly is. I mean, still mining barely anything. In fact, like, yeah, his mineral count's not going up. Elazer's not mining really from that far left base. It's almost done. But the bottom right base, there are 4 mineral patches left. Wow, they've brought each other completely to the brink here.
What a game. What a day. Look at us. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought it? I do like SKillous' position a lot more, though. This army, it's a bruiser army, man. Like,
so many Archons.
Yeah, you have to deal with that with such finesse. And Nico, is he the finesse guy? We'll wait and see. I mean, this is SKillous taking a massive fight on top of quite a few Spore Crawlers here, but I think he's got enough.
Yeah, at this point, the Spores kind of mess up where some of the Ultralisks are able to path too. And of course, trying not to forget, I mean, Archons deal a whole lot of damage. They got a ton of firepower, so they on their own can still kind of get through the Spores and the Queens. And obviously, the Corruptors can't do too much to them. So as long as he covers for the Void Rays, then we're good. And then as the FPS starts to go back up as we're finally clearing out some of these monstrous gargantuan armies and static defense fields, but a lot of them being repositioned. So it gives a huge window of time for SKillous to continue to push up onto this. Void Rays are going to get to the Brood Lords. Pretty much the only thing that the Archons would struggle with. And that's it. GG. SKillous takes game number 1.
It was a ridiculous game, man. A ridiculous game. This was the typical, like, no rush 30 kind of thing. And
they're just the handshake. I'll see you in 20 minutes, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we literally had a guy try and Astro draw 15 minutes in after nobody attacking. And yeah, I mean, that's CVP, man. Especially on Jagannatha. Like, it's a very long map. I know the speed zone's in the middle, but it doesn't stop how long the map is if you don't go through the speed zones. And yeah, they both tried their best playing the late game. It just turned out that it's a total shit show. And like both of them just rallying units to their death kind of thing. And SKillous is now saying he needs a couple of minutes. Well, SKillous, think about us. Think about us.
Oh, don't worry. I think we still got another EU match, and then we've got the full slate of NA games, Benjamin. So I look forward to some golf commentary from you, and I can keep the loudness up.
I believe the EU match, by the way, the last EU match might be getting moved to the B stream.
Oh.
So Marine Lord versus Swordov will probably be over on the B stream. I'm just reading this now. Oh, and apparently Marine Lord is up 1-0 already. So if you want to check that out, do check over on the B stream here. You know, we don't want to keep the NA players waiting over here. Well, maybe the Zerg and Protoss players did, but the rest of us, we're good. We're like, you know what, guys? Play your games. Get over on the B stream.
Good guy, Ben.
Let's do this. I didn't do crap, but
I squarely put the problem solving all on you. Good job, Ben. I appreciate it. And our awesome production team behind the scenes. Those guys are crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually cannot be credited for any of this mastermindery. I was too busy having my soul sucked from my body.
Oh, I'm good. What a day! What a day, man. We get to see the full slate of what PvZ in 2021 has to offer, and it is it's like, I don't know. It's like when you look at one of those weird like Cronenberg arts or horror films where you're like, oh, there is something really beautiful about the direction of this scene and movie, but it's still like blob people eating each other and stuff. And you're like, it's also horrifying and disgusting at the same time. But you know, it's like, oh, good camera shots, good music usage, right? I feel like everything's mostly played out. But again, it's people turning into blob monsters and eating each other. So it's you spend the whole entire time trying to look away, but you can't. And that's the same way that made me feel. So we'll see on 2000 Atmospheres, which now that Katz has cursed me with the idea that we won't see a queen walk on this map, I feel like the only thing that can happen is for us to go into another game like the one that we just saw. Elazer says that he is ready. I think we'll just wait once. Yeah, looks like it's starting. Game 2 on the way.
I've got some good info for you too as well, Nate. I know that SKillous likes to open up that way most times against Zerg, so might be in for another long game, you know. But it's cool because when I first started playing StarCraft 2, and this kind of conversation has been going for the longest time, like which race has the best late game and stuff, where you see two players immediately go for the late game with no kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stop you. You really get to see who has the better late game, but more importantly, like who knows how to handle it better. Because you see Cyril and you're like, holy crap, how do you beat him in that situation? And then you can see Elazer, who's damn good as well, but maybe SKillous handled it a bit better than Mana. I don't even know, but yeah, it's really fun to see.
Indubitably, Benjamin, as we are loaded into game 2. In case you forgot, in the bottom left, we have the red Protoss player. He is SKillous.
And spawning over in the bottom left or rather top right as our blue Zerg, it is Elazer. Okay, this is something I appreciate a lot from SKillous here. So he didn't pro block hatch block in the first game. He was very like, okay, I'm gonna go for a gateway, and then I'm gonna scout afterwards. Like, I don't want to call it a greedy opening, but it's a scout that doesn't hatch block, obviously. Whereas this game is like, you know what, I'm gonna hatch block. I think Protosses that are willing to shimmy that up a little bit, it's always frustrating because it's like, all right, do I go for the 15 hatch this game? That's kind of like worse. Do I go for the 16 hatch and just place it aggressively? It can already throw you off a very, very tiny bit, and it allows you to kind of have the mental game on your side a little bit already without actually having done anything besides mix it up.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. I mean, Elazer just invested about 40 minutes of his life into that last match, doing everything he possibly could, and then SKillous manages to take it after that. I mean, that fight itself must have taken like a full 4 or 5 minutes before they actually stopped attacking each other, right? So when we talk about the 10,000 mineral bank fight, it didn't really stop. Like, it's an exhausting ordeal to go through for both players. But if you're SKillous, you end it feeling relieved and you're like, okay, I just need to win one more and I'm fine. If you're Elazer, you're thinking about, okay, well, if I'm going to win this, I'm going to potentially have to go through that 2 more times, which I can only imagine is demoralizing at best. So it's going to take a lot of mental focus and energy to take a series back like this. So that makes me want to believe that Elazer would try to force something, but against a Void Ray opener, I don't even know if you can.
No, absolutely. I mean, Queen Walks are good and stuff, and I've seen them beat Void Ray openings like numerous times, but I've seen Void Ray openings, especially with the Fast Disruptor, hold off the Queen stuff. I really liked Dark's take on his Queen Walks, though. He did it with like +1 melee, and I don't know necessarily what it's really good or bad against, but he seemed to make it work against a lot of the cheeky stuff that Max Pax was throwing at him at Asus ROG. I wonder if that's anything that Elazer has up his sleeve as well.
Yeah, something a little out of left field. And I totally get you, though, with like the Queen Walk stuff. And I guess if he were to break down the rocks in front of the expansion that he was forced to take early, you can kind of clear that path. I don't know if that's what the biggest limiting factor for going for this type of strategy is, but you're right. You're basically, as a Zerg, you have 2 options. You're either going to play that ultra late game, or you just have to put everything in the basket and just go completely all in with that super big push, that big queen attack with roaches or ravagers or lings or whatever it's going to be, and just hope to kill them really early. Here we see a Twilight Council after the Oracle for SKillous, and well, looking a little bit different from the last map, huh, Muslim?
Yeah, absolutely, and I like this stuff too, because you're in Elazer shoes, you've done a little bit of scouting, you see the Void Ray, And then the Oracle's going to show up as well. And you're probably thinking like, well, we're in for this again, eh? And say if he was planning something to counter that, and then SKillous is like, oh, I've got a Twilight Castle, mate. Like, I've totally mixed it up this time. And I like that kind of stuff. It looks like Okay, Adept Glaives.
Okay.
I was going to say he's going to go for like a really fast charge or something like that, but this is interesting.
Yeah, Resonating Glaives. I mean, the commitment to the Stargate still feels there. You know, I mean, we've got the Oracle out, the Void Ray's out. He's getting +1, but it's like if the Overlord were to scout his tech, he would still see the Twilight Council. It's not like he's trying to sell that he's going double Stargate, because the opening makes it look similar enough with the Void Ray into Oracle, sure. But if he gets in there and sees the Stargate, he will also see the Twilight and know that something else is going on. So he's just, I guess he's just hoping that he doesn't scout the Twilight, and he's just gets ready for the Giga late game again, and he can smash him with a bunch of Adepts and get an early lead, or perhaps seal the deal early on.
Yeah,
but he's building probes on 3 bases too, so I don't even know. Like, he's got 3 gateways. Like, how many Resonating Glaive of Adepts is he going to build?
He's got 10 on the field, but he's done a really good job of hiding them all, right? But Elazer does scout this, so he knows what he's up against now, and scouting that when it's on the other side of the map is all well and good. He has no larvae to spend, though. Okay, now he has lava to spend, and that's a really big deal, because now he's whipping out roaches as fast as possible, but SKillous is on the other side of the map. He'd go for the hearty, like, interior, though, with all the drones and stuff. Weird.
Yeah. It almost feels like it's still a fake out in a way. He's building only roaches and lings, but no more Adepts are being produced. He shades into this 3rd base. Sure, I guess the 2nd base that was technically taken in this game, but he's behind it. He's got +1 air finishing. He's building Void Rays. He's added a Stargate. He's got his Robo. So he is still thinking about that uber late game, except this time he's saying, okay, Elazer, instead of building as many drones as you normally would, I want you to think it's a Resonating Glaive Adept all in, so that you don't invest in the late game, and then I can get my air army before you have something that can stop it, and I can kill you at maybe the 20-minute mark instead of the 40-minute mark.
But look at Elazer, what he's doing. He's droning up a lot. Yeah, he has a large ground army that he can march across the map with, but without any sort of anti-air, like SKillous, he did get that +1 on air weapons, and also, what's a pretty big deal, he's got 2 Stargate, 3rd on the way. Like, this is very reminiscent of how he liked to go about it in the first game, like getting the 3 Stargates up if he's not going to die. And Elazer, this big swell of ground units, I don't think he can get anything done.
Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunities that are going to present themselves, right? Because it's still really just Roach Ling, which you use to defend the attack. Sure, that's great, but again, Void Rays, they can handle roaches. We know that to be a verifiable fact. Especially with the prismatic alignment. So he goes up to the 4th base. He's got the Robo Bay. He is going to be squeezing out a disruptor, it looks like. He had the Robo Bay relatively early in the last game, too, but the commitment wasn't necessarily there. So maybe he was more concerned about a big counter shove, like Elazer would say, okay, I invested too much into the defense, so now I'm going to take all my queens, take all my units, and just go all in. But that's not happening either. So he's kind of got the roaches and lings sharking around. He hasn't really reinforced them. He's just getting more drones. He's going up to his hive. He's getting his spire, all of that good stuff, all that tech. So whether the disruptors end up being a big factor, I am curious about that. I think the reason why he might want them more this game is because we didn't have the big corruptor play. I think you pointed this out. I mean, Cyril had like 40 corruptors, but last game we didn't have almost any corruptors until there was at least one decent-ish fight, right? And then he had Broodlords kill his own queens to make supply for corruptors. So if he has a bunch of queens like that, then I can see where mixing in a few disruptors gets really big, because obviously those queens are going to clump up really badly if they all want to shoot.
Oh yeah, definitely. Spire is coming online. I'm unsure if it's just a Broodlord Spire though, given that it's so well timed with the hive finishing. Maybe it is. I can't imagine him making anything else. But yeah, that Void Ray count's getting high now. It's getting scary as well, most importantly, because now the queens are like, oh, well, we are a lot if we're all grouped together. Wow, takes down the hash tree right in front of Elazer's eyes there. That's pretty brutal.
It's a good grab. I mean, this is that soft impact, right, that we were talking about earlier. Last game, when the Void Rays moved out against the queens, we were joking about it because nothing died. None of the Void Rays died, none of the queens died. At least here, he gets a cancel on the hatch. So it's not quite as well set up as the way that he had it previously. So you can, I'm trying anyway to see where the little edges from that opening that he did in this game are going to pan out. And he has an observer with the Void Rays this time to help clear out some of the creep. I like this as a move too. The Queens are going to go try to intercept, but you know, Void Rays, well, they're pretty fast, and the upgrade's finishing, so now they're really fast.
You gotta say, SKillous loves his static defense, man, because Elazer can't get much done, but I'm looking at Elazer's base as well. I'm like, oh, you love your static defense too. And tell you what, this is nice. This is nice micro on both sides, but SKillous definitely getting the better end out of these little trades here with the Queens.
Yeah, done a good job so far. Just one spore on this base. Flies into all the corruptors though. A little awkward, but of course you turn on prismatic alignment, microwave a few of them, and then hit the recall button and get out. That definitely could have gotten a lot worse. There's a world where he just gets fungled and the corruptors and the spore and queens kill all his void rays right there, and the game goes on. But instead, the game will just go on.
Yeah, even though I think Elazer definitely isn't bad at this stage of the game, it definitely feels like this is not his ultimate comfort zone situation. Like, I always know Elazer being very good at killing his opponent, but when he's got to kind of endure them and outlast them and that kind of stuff, it's so difficult. Like, SKillous was very patient, and the amount of static that he makes just to be so resilient against this kind of stuff, yeah, it's annoying. By the way, this use of burrow is very cool.
Yeah, getting a little bit of the heads up at least whenever or if ever that base gets grabbed. Of course, the base with the Rich Vespine Geyser is not too far from where he's already set up. I mean, getting that, when we talk about stuff like that, it's always like, oh yeah, you can build that army faster. But in this case, it's like he can make gas faster. Fungal's gonna hit as he pushes in. He wants to try and force the issue on this base. Feels like there was a little bit of the move command action there. Disruptor tries to land on the infestors, not able to do so. And the carriers just went in so deep that with the fungal growth, these queens had plenty of time to catch up to them, and they are super dead. That is a catastrophic loss on the part of SKillous.
Yeah, the resources lost out before that, I think it was actually better for SKillous. Now, well, he's lost twice as much as his opponent. I gotta admit, those disruptors, I don't know whether they thought they were melee units. I don't know what SKillous was necessarily hoping he'd run into. He was really hoping to catch Elazer off guard, but and another carrier? Well, it feels like SKillous all of a sudden just sort of fell apart, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's just getting tired at this point. I mean, it's pretty late over there for both players, right? So Lings and Roaches are going to spill into that right side base, start knocking stuff down. I think he might be a little tilted. I think what happened was he tried to click the disruptor shot while he still had his whole army selected on the infestor, and then the disruptor died, but the rest of his army still kind of moved a little bit further forward than they should have, right? They kind of flew right over all the static defense, and that's when, I mean, carriers, if you're talking about what makes them good, the range is a big part of it. So when you fly them right over spores, that's definitely something that probably got a little bit under his skin. I think he was really trying to target down those infestors. That's my best guess anyway.
That little burrowed Ling, by the way. The Ling that could.
How much value did he get off that, Benjamin? I love that.
Way too much, way too much. We were talking about it, how we liked it, but it's not only stopped the Expo from going down, it's granted Elazer vision, so he knows when to come over and try and delay it and deal with it and stuff. I mean, this attack, these Lings didn't do too well against the full brunt of the Protoss army, but he has the opportunity to go for it again. The little warp prism that could over here.
Yeah, that prism backstab potential is huge. The main army looked like it might have tried to make a play on that northwest base as the carriers and Archons all came over to help secure the Burrowed Ling expansion. But that's a pretty big Zealot warp in, 12 of them inside the main base of Elazer. This is perhaps the one point that he doesn't have 7 spine crawlers covering. But that's what the Roaches and Zerglings are for. They do a somewhat decent job. He's going to bait him to the ramp, the choke point. Not much is going to go down there with spines in range. As the carriers begin to work away at some spores, 2 neural parasites are going to grab a handful of them, though, and that's going to open the door for a recall for the rest to get out, but losing 2 more carriers here. Well, unfortunately for SKillous, he's not banking 12,000, 9,000 like last game.
Certainly isn't, and that resource is lost now. It's just growing more and more in the favor of Elazer. SKillous, did he cancel? He didn't even get the Great Aspire. Look at that Great Aspire. 100 health remaining. So he tried to snipe it down, but Elazer just defending here, there, and everywhere. He's got double upgrades on the way. Plus 3 air weapons, by the way. Just finished, it looks like, for SKillous. So at least he's got that going for him, but Elazer's just cashing up in upgrades all the way across the board.
Yeah, this is looking grim. It's looking grim for the Protoss player SKillous here. Perhaps just getting a bit tired out against this style or playing these long games. It's been brutal. And Elazer has he's seemingly not lost a step. I mean, the adept stuff at the beginning of the game was pretty cute. It was nice to see, but without that colossal bank, there is no more field of dreams of photon cannons and batteries covering all of his expansions. He doesn't have the ability to defend both bases at once to the same degree as he used to. Bunch of resources get spent on warpins there. Elazer starting to poke through now. Microbial Shroud over the Queens to help tank against the carriers. And he's just going to keep pushing. And once this base gets crushed, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of options left for SKillous in this game to Muslim.
Way different game this time on our hands, right? Like, you can just tell that Elazer's felt so much more comfortable here. He didn't sit back quite as much. He was kind of in the face of his opponent, but it really felt like SKillous didn't want to play as patiently either. And that one move that he tried to get going, well, didn't work out at all. And big hungry Ultra over here with the Lings. Man, SKillous, he can't afford to lose this base as well, which he does keep it alive, but 20 probes. GG.
GG. Elazer ties the series up 1-1 to Muslim. It is not over yet. We are going to have one more game to figure out which of these two is going to take this series. I think we can both say without a shadow of a doubt, whoever wins this one has definitely earned it. The ultimate trial by fire, as we've got one hell of a PvZ series on our hands, huh?
I mean, we really do. And we did say as well going into this that these guys are both really sick. Like, they're really sick. Oh, my goodness. Blackburn will be the final map.
Yeah, Blackburn.
Which is funny. So for those at home, Blackburn's a really hard map to attack on. Like, the avenues, there's kind of like single files. You've obviously got the slow zones in the middle. But more importantly, getting to your opponent's base, it's much easier to defend than it is to attack. Yeah,
are you telling me that we might have another game like the last two we just saw?
This might be one of those situations, Nate, where it's like, you know that final game of EU? Yeah, we're putting it on the B stream. This might be like, all right, NA guys, so we're getting on a little bit now, and the times are really cracking up as I'm looking at this invisible watch, and maybe the first series, I have no idea. This is bonkers.
Yeah, this, well, Blackburn is definitely a map where you can play the long games on and play very slow and defensively. On the other hand, that the attack path between the main bases early on, maybe we'll see a little more of the Void Ray action. I don't know. Looks like we've got everything set up. Both players are here. Everybody is ready and raring to go.
I got a question for you, Nate.
Hit me.
You know the Legacy of the Void trailer where you have like that moment where the Ultralisk and the Archon are kind of duking it out?
Oh, yeah.
Did you feel more on the side of one than the other?
Well, I mean, but anybody that actually plays StarCraft knows that 1v1, the Ultralisk would always kill an Archon, right?
Yes.
So the idea that you basically have like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure level of Ex Machina where the Archon just says, I'm just going to do something that you didn't even know Archons could do and just implode half of you into not existing. That was pretty cool. So I find myself on the side of the Archon. Also, the Archon's my favorite unit in StarCraft, so it's kind of a gimme. Sorry.
I mean, like, okay, the Archon in Brood War, I think was way cooler though, don't you think?
Oh, unbelievable! I mean, the voice lines on it.
Yeah, the voice lines, the attack animation too. Like it's got in the like that sound is so
burn.
Cool.
Oh no, unreal levels of badassery out of the Archon for sure.
Absolutely. I do think the Ultralisk got cooler in StarCraft 2, though. Like, it looks less like this weird crab thing.
Yeah, it just kind of looked like a giant drone in Brood War, honestly. I always thought of it like that. It's like they gave the drone, you know, the protein, and then turned it into an Ultralisk.
Kind of, yeah. Like, it looks like it kind of doesn't run on its hands. It runs on its elbows, and it's like, that's freaking weird. Anyhow, Blackburn, the third map of the series, spawning in the bottom right. It is Elazer.
His opponent in the bottom left, the red Protoss, he's SKillous.
And you really can't say that about a lot of units, that certain units are cooler in StarCraft 2 than Brood War, purely because of the sound effects.
Yeah. Well, that's why everybody, I'm sure you're on this train too, but I mean, the Marine sounds were way cooler in Brood War, right? You had that really heavy, like chug sound out of when the Marines were attacking, you know? It really felt like you were firing a rifle at high speeds. And SC2, it's like, it sounds nice when there's a lot of them shooting at once, but otherwise it's like, it's like it sounds like you're throwing stones at somebody wearing armor. I'm like, nah.
No, I get you. I mean, like the Zerglings hitting buildings or units in general sounded really cool in Brood War, and like the Zealot attack as well. That actually sounded mean. I will say though, like one of the most satisfying sounds in StarCraft 2 for me that I don't think was there in Brood War is Snipe. Like Snipe is
100%.
That just hits my heart, like in the best way possible.
100%. Yeah. I think I think carriers have slightly cooler design in SC2. You know, in Brood War they kind of look like giant duckbills, and I saw a photoshopped image of it once when I was like 14, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head. So not everything got toned down in my opinion, but
okay,
yeah, here we are, an hour deep into a PVZ. Let's see what's happening now.
I mean, we got to talk about this stuff. Okay, worst skin in StarCraft 2. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to think about it, and we're gonna go 3, 2, 1 and say the same thing, hopefully. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Planetary Fortress.
Skin. The Marauder skin. The Marauder skin. The first one they came out with. It looks exactly like the normal Marauder.
What about the Planetary Fortress in classic mode? It's terrible.
But it's like,
it's 100% terrible. It looks like
I can tell that you're not a fan of deep fried memes to Muslim. That's all I'm gonna say. Because there is a point where there is a tipping point for ridiculousness of how something looks or is, where it actually becomes pretty awesome. And for me anyway, it is there is nothing like having 7 janky ass looking command centers next to each other with these tiny little turrets that you can't even see on the top of them.
Yes.
And it's probably won me a lot of games. So I'm afraid I can't complain about that. I love it. You know, turn the saturation up to 125% and get some painful sounds mixed in there. You've got yourself something awesome.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through my tier list of bad skins. Planetary Fortress, because it doesn't look like a planetary fortress.
It's super ugly.
Yeah, like I've attacked it so many times. I'm like, what the frick? This thing shoots at me. I'm like, god damn it, and it, like totally misread the game. Oh, I'm glad they paused to let us talk about this more. Winged Zerglings. That was also like, oh my god, these Zerglings literally look twice the size. So you know, I got scared of fighting them. And what's another one? Oh, when Stalkers looked like Immortals. That also was kind of like a terrifying thing. And Immortals look like Stalkers. Yes.
Yeah. I think with the stronger team colors, I don't know. The Stalker one never got me quite as much. The Colossus one, I have been baited by someone, typically when they would use the hallucination when they have the Colossus skin, and you're like, oh, is that a no, that's just the Colossus skin. It always looks hallucinated. Yeah? Yeah, the Tal'Darim one that didn't have any of the fancy Tal'Darim lights on it. I was like, oh yeah, it's probably just that Colossus. I know it's not a hallucination. He's messing with me, but then it is a hallucination, and you know, you right click on it with your Marauders and then you die. So that one jumps out a little bit.
Okay, I so there's one thing that I am super jealous of, and it was like when the Protosses got the probe that all of a sudden mines orange. You know, like it has the orange beam instead of like the little blue beam.
The purifier probes.
Yeah. I thought that was super cool, and I wish that we actually went a little bit more extreme on that, so you could have like SCVs that did it purple, or like, you know, drones that did it green. Like that'd be pretty freaking. That'd have been really cool, I think. Instead, freaking Planetary Fortress. Okay, it's bane of my being. Doesn't even have a gun on it. Just
looks like a regular command center with like a matchbox on top, and you're just supposed to know that the matchbox happens to be twin IBIX 40mm cannons. Like, what?
I'm enjoying the chat between these guys right now. So SKillous is apparently having some ping issues, and he's like, I might need to use a proxy here.
Oh my Yeah, this
And then
conversation.
Elazer's like, I wish you used proxy instead of sitting there for 1 hour. So, you know, we're having some spice.
Oh.
Some spice thrown across the table here from Poland to Russia. You know, SKillous really should have hit up Norton Gaming to help him out with this problem.
Whatever, it would have helped keep whatever was causing the extra latency perhaps out of play. Oh man, haven't had a good proper meltdown on a cast like this in a while, Benjamin. I'm having a good time.
Doesn't it just remind you of where we used to wear the Big Mac outfits? And
oh yeah. Hey, we love sponsors. All right, I'd just like to say that Benjamin and I have been doing our part to try and keep sponsors happy because we love StarCraft and all these tournaments happening. All right, we straight up wore burger suits. All right, so that they would keep running that tournament for everybody. We love y'all, and we even got the Norton plugin on this one too, which again could actually have helped. Who knows? In this situation, but whew, yeah.
You know, sometimes I also forget to do what's good for my computer when I'm busy making thousands of cannons and batteries across the map while making billions of air units as well.
That's true.
But, you know, hopefully SKillous is able to sort this out pretty soon. So far, we've got no update, but, you know, SKillous is
just chilling.
He's a little smart cookie, man. He'll get it. He'll whip his phone out that's got 5G rolling on it, you know, along with Norton Gaming protection.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe now he's just checking his Coinbase, making sure that he's up to date on everything that's been going on over the last few days.
We should have saved our skin talk for this section of the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have anything left on that? Is there another tangent to go on? I agree with you. The Command Center skin is definitely the most jankiest, but I don't hate it. I am in love with it because of how cursed it looks.
Why did you say Marauder?
The enhanced Marauder. It was like the first skin that you could buy for Terran, and it's literally the normal Marauder with no changes other than slightly more team color space on the shoulders. That's it.
Okay. Oh, dude. Okay, you just reminded me. One of the best skins, Junker, for sure.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
But where do you stand on the Junker Hellbat versus the Mirrors Marauder Hellbat? Because they're both basically the same.
Junker.
Right?
No, Junker's it's got more spikes.
Okay. I appreciate the analysis on the spikes, but it doesn't have the different voice lines. You know, they have the voice effects over the voice lines of the units that were their own individual skins. That's the primary difference.
I'm fine avoiding that, Nate. I play with low sound. You know, I've got to keep quiet for the baby in the next room and stuff. But okay, we are back in the game, which is really cool. But where was I going to go with? There was some other skin that I was just thinking of, and I was like, that is awesome too. Oh, when I say awesome, I mean really bad. The first Marine one, when his gun was really huge, I hated that guy.
Oh, the Mercenary Marine skin, the one that looks like the Merc Marine from like the campaign. Oh, the Fleet Beacon's even earlier this game.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That is terrible. And Zombie Grub also was mentioning the bad comb over that an Overlord had as one of its first skins, kind of thing. Oh, dude, freaking. You know when they first added building skins and it was like, oh, this is so hype, right? And it's like, my depot now looks terrible. And I'm like, God damn it.
Oh, yeah, no, it has like a little satellite. No, that was one of, again, you know, on some of those early ones, Terran definitely got a bit shafted on some of the early skins. But I feel like they did a good job of eventually giving everybody some of that. We have some Lings coming over towards the third. The Void Ray cannot stop them from killing the pylon before they run away.
SKillous is like, you know what? Tectonic destabilizers along with
tectonic destabilizer rush.
I love it. I mean, I don't know if it's going to work, but every time I've seen it, it's not worked. But I like it.
Very inspiring.
Yeah,
inspiring, a lot of confidence. So for anybody, you know, who doesn't know too much about this particular upgrade, makes the Tempest do an extra 40 damage to buildings, which on a map where there's a lot of dead space, I say that as the Oracle does get sniped. On a map where there's a lot of dead space, where you can't really reach the Tempest, being able to poke at buildings from afar, huge, right? I mean, the potential to come in and harass, deny expansions, or at the very least, keep static defense away, something that is worth considering. The Tempest themselves not really known for being able to kill armies super effectively, But if there's anything that I have to say that at least I'm happy about with regards to this, he's mixing it up enough that Elazer may not see Tempest Harass coming. I don't know if that ends up being a super huge deal because he's building 4 queens at a time and they don't take the bonus damage. They don't take bonus damage from anything other than Archons. So, yeah.
Oh, this could be a nice grab on these Adepts. I mean, every little bit helps, and these Adepts, even though they're not useful in a straight-up army battle, they have the potential to do that thing where they just run to a drone line and deal damage, and oh my goodness, these guys actually got in there. This is already a bit problematic for SKillous, not what he wanted at all.
That's definitely the slip-up I think Elazer was looking for. Changeling he gets into the main base, too, with the Overseer, just kind of trying to see what is happening. And I think he will see, okay, you've got the Tempest out. Kind of pulls him away from the mineral line, though, so the Lings are able to go back. This is the kind of stuff that happens when you just start to feel a little bit sloppy after a long day of gaming action. And we see 3 Tempests. So, of course, they can kind of shave the queens away from there. There's no easy way to jump onto these. And that's where we talk about the extra 40 damage per shot against buildings being super nice. This hatchery becomes trivial to deny. You just have so much damage output. And you can clearly see the upgrade is done on the opponent's side because the Tempests are now shooting orange balls.
Yes. You know, to kill a gold base, I mean, both of them have killed the gold base. Oh, more Adepts being called out here, though these have the assistance of the photon batteries, which is nice, photon cannons. I'm losing it, Nate. I'm losing it. This time, though, the Zerglings will not get in the main, and that's a lot of Tempest
I love where he's wedged the Tempest. He's like, this map has space where you can't reach me from the ground, so I'm going to have these guys chip away at you and force you to build something other than queens. It's like the old ranged Liberator rush when they had, like, you know, you could kind of find the impossible spots on every map. He's like, if you don't build a Spire, I am going to just poke you to death. It will never end. And he's actually trimming a huge amount of the queens because he's got a bunch of Tempests over here. He's popping Overlords. He's got queens. He could deny the Extractor too. Cut a little bit of the gas income out. I'd love to see him just one-tap that. And 16 Corruptors are being made as a response. So it is time to switch gears back into the Void Rays. And hopefully he's able to get a smooth recall off as he sees the Corruptors coming in.
Yeah, but they kind of showed themselves really early. I mean, it does stop the onslaught onto these queens, which is nice for Elazer, but maybe it'd have been better to stack them all up. Although, I guess also you could say it's quite nice for him to leave those Tempests in the army because they're not the best battle units in a straight-up fight.
Yeah, I mean, Tempests are not really known for their DPS, right? It's range and burst. So you can poke, you can get good shots, you can kind of hang back from a defensive situation. But if you're forced to go head-to-head against these Corruptors, you're going to get, you know, obliterated. But that's what the Void Rays are for. They can handle them, especially with the Prismatic alignment, especially with shield batteries, photon cannons. Becomes a whole different ball game. We've got the main base cannon over here. I think we had a little hiccup there. But yeah, it's just more Corruptors for the most part and air upgrades. He's just looking for anything that he can pick off, I suppose.
Oh, and I mean, this time Elazer's like, oh, you said I didn't build enough Corruptors in the few games prior? Well, now I'm already up to, well, soon going to be 30 here. And oh, look at this. He's actually splitting up the Corruptors here, which... Is he just going to go for a base kill with a group of them, trying to get the opponent out of position?
Oh yeah, he's just going to he's going to pee on both Nexi. Easy, knock them both down. There you go.
I like it.
It's the classic, what is it, Dark Knight scenario. You can save one, but you can't save both. You can't save either, actually. Sorry, bad news, bro.
Bad news, bad news. Oh, this is, actually, I mean, he saved technically 0.5, right?
Are we going to reach that far?
I mean, he's got half a face, man. Like, half of him. Okay, this is a lot.
I appreciate you continuing the Batman references. The Corruptors are going to push up. He's just going to take the head-to-head fight against the Void Rays. He thinks he has the numbers, especially with the Roaches on the ground. These High Templar not able to really contribute what he wishes he could. On the defensive side of things, there is an overcharge on the shield battery, but the Corruptors do so much damage to the Tempest. He bursts them down. He's going to climb right on top of that army. The Roaches are nuzzled up nice and close to the Archons.
Wow.
Oh, I only had 2 Nexi left. Well, the other one was going to die anyway. GG Elazer takes the series 2-1.